Hey y'all, welcome back to another What's for Dinner. I am starting off the week with this famous 2-ingredient dough that I've talked about a million times. All it is some self-rising flour and some plain Greek yogurt, 1 cup of each thrown into a mixing bowl, and then I just whip out a fork and combine those 2 ingredients together until it forms a really crumbly mixture. I am going to be making some bagels with this, as I've done many times on this channel. I've also done it with pizza dough. There is so many uses for this, and I want to try them all eventually. I just love it. So I just dumped that out onto a piece of floured parchment paper. I also floured my hands to keep this from sticking too bad. It is a pretty sticky mixture. And I'm just going to fold that over several times, kind of kneading it until it is workable. And then I just roll it up into a ball, take out a knife, and I just cut it into 4 equal sections. And then this is how I kind of roll it. I just keep on going until it's kind of like a long rope, I guess you'd say. And then I just fold it up into the shape of a donut. Then lastly, I'm just taking a beaten egg and brushing that over the tops. This is what's going to help it turn golden, and also for your seasonings to stick. This is originally a Weight Watchers recipe, but I don't follow that diet, even though I am interested. They do say to just use the egg whites, but like I said, I just use the whole egg. And then I'm taking some everything bagel seasoning. That's my favorite, and that's what I'm sprinkling over the top of ours. So I have preheated my air fryer basket at 330 degrees for 12 minutes before placing these in. I did also spray it with some nonstick cooking spray. If you don't have an air fryer, that's completely fine. You can bake these in the oven. The link that I'll have in my description box will have the instructions on how to bake those. And then I just pop those in for 12 minutes at 330 degrees, and they turn out perfect every single time. So I am going to be using those to make some BLTs. One of you guys recommended that to me. I wish I remembered your name. I couldn't go back and find the comment, since it has been a while, but I do appreciate it, and I'd give you a shout out if I could. But for the bacon, my favorite way to cook bacon is in the oven. I just place it on a foil lined cookie sheet, and I just pop that into a cold oven. I don't preheat it, and I crank that temperature up to 400 degrees. I usually start checking around 20 minutes, but this took about 25 minutes since it was thick cut bacon, and we like it crispy. My dad brought me a couple of these homegrown tomatoes, and they were the best. I'm honestly not like a huge fan of tomatoes. I'll add them to my sandwiches sometimes, and also my salads, mainly for like the color. I think they look nice, and I kind of force myself to eat them. I know that sounds silly, but they're just not that great. Like at the store where I'm from, at least. So when I can get these from the garden in the summertime, there is just nothing better. My goal is to have a huge garden one day. I'm just kind of clueless in that department, but yeah, that's my goal. This was seriously the best BLT I believe I've ever had. So thank you again for that suggestion. You know who you are. And then for the side, I just went really easy and light. We just have some fresh cucumber and some buttered corn on the cob. Up next, I was craving some like appetizer type food, so I made a vegetable pizza. I just have a foil lined cookie sheet that's been sprayed with some nonstick cooking spray, and then I'm going to lay out a can of crescent rolls. Pillsbury brand is my favorite. I have learned through trial and error, and then I'm just pinching the seams together and patting that out, and I'm going to throw that in the oven according to the package directions. And then I'm going to take half a block of room temperature cream cheese. Philadelphia is the absolute best in my opinion. I like the Great Value, but I've been splurging here recently with the Philadelphia. And then I'm just adding in some sour cream, and then the holy grail of all seasonings, the Hidden Valley Ranch seasoning. I'm adding in 1.5 tablespoons, and then you'll need some dried dill. I would definitely cut this in half next time. It was pretty overpowering in my opinion, unless you're like obsessed with dill. I just think the recipe was kind of wrong there. Anyway, so I'm going to add in a little bit more sour cream to make it more spreadable. I didn't measure it out the first go around. But yeah, once that crescent roll crust has completely cooled down, I just added that to the middle and took the back of a spoon and spread that out into an even thin layer. And then you're just going to add the vegetables of your choice. So I just took some broccoli and I finely chopped that. That's what I added for the base. And then I found this cauliflower that was already chopped up, so that was a great time saver. I'm just going to add a good amount of that down. I love cauliflower. And then lastly, I'm just going to take some of these carrot matchsticks and sprinkle that over the top. You could, of course, shred the carrot yourself if that's what you want to do, whatever floats your boat. And then I'm just pressing it down into that cream cheese so that it doesn't all completely fall apart when you go to pick it up. And then I am just going to take a pizza cutter and cut that into squares. You can obviously cut it as little or as big as you want. This is the perfect like finger food for parties. I've had it so many times, but this was my first time actually making it myself. We went to a baby shower like at the beginning of the year and they had those, and Josh tried them for the first time and he loved them, and he looked at me and he was like, you totally need to make these one day soon. And that guy does not like vegetables. He rarely ever eats them, so I was like, yeah, I'll for sure do that. So yeah, I transferred it to a little fancy serving plate to make it look a little nicer. And then to go along with this, I made a pot of chili. It may be blazing hot outside, but I've been craving this and we do what we want around here. So I just browned up a pound of ground beef that had been seasoned with salt, pepper, onion, and garlic powder. I drained the grease and then I added in 2 cans of tomato sauce, followed by a can of water just to kind of thin it out some. And then I add in 1 can of chili beans. I leave it in that chili sauce. And then I also add in a can of dark red kidney beans. I do drain and rinse those. And then I add in a packet of chili seasoning. So my favorite kind is the Chili O seasoning. I believe it's by French's. It's like in the yellow and red package. You can pretty much find it at any grocery store, but they were completely sold out. So I went with the McCormick, which was good. It's just not my favorite. But I just stirred all that together, and then I'm going to let that come up to a boil, pop the lid on, turn it down to a simmer, and yes, we do add spaghetti noodles in our chili around here. I know that's odd to a lot of people, but it's very common here. Even the schools serve it like this. And then for mine, I always like to sprinkle a little bit of brown sugar over the top. I know it sounds weird, but don't knock it till you try it. You could also cook the brown sugar in the chili like while it's simmering, but I'm the only one that likes it this way, so that's just how I do it. And I also like to add in some cheese and some crushed crackers. So it had been raining all week and it was gloomy outside, so this meal was actually perfect. And we just watched Halloween movies this whole day and it was just perfect. Next up, we are doing some cheeseburger wraps. So once again, a pound of ground beef in the skillet, seasoned the same way I always season it pretty much. Salt, pepper, onion, and garlic powder. I do like to season it while it's cooking. I feel like it just flavors the meat better. And then once it is fully cooked, I am going to drain off that grease, add it back into my skillet, and then I'm going to add in several dashes of Worcestershire sauce, followed by about a tablespoon of ketchup. And then I know this sounds kind of odd, but also some Parmesan cheese. It started to smell interesting. I was getting a little worried, but trust me, just go with the process. It'll work out. And then I'm going to be using these flat out wraps. If you are not a fan of these, you could of course use a regular tortilla and cook these up like quesadilla style. I've done that before and it's really good. So I am just taking a piece of this Velveeta cheese, a classic cheeseburger cheese, adding that to the middle, and then I'm going to add down a few scoops of that meat. I'm trying to place it directly on that cheese so that it'll kind of melt down and kind of help bind it and keep it together so it won't be a complete mess when you go to pick it up. I'm also going to start adding the dressings that I like. So I'm using some mayo, ketchup, and some mustard. This is also going to help kind of keep it together. And then you're going to add your toppings. So I'm adding some pickles, my favorite part of a cheeseburger, and then some of those leftover tomatoes from the BLTs. Once again, I always season with some salt and pepper. And then lastly, just a piece of lettuce, and then I am going to tightly roll that up. And I am going to cut this down the middle just to kind of show you what the insides look like. Here it is, any day now. Yeah, so how gorgeous is that? These were seriously delicious. And to go along with that, I just air fried some french fries. I am using the Orada kind, the extra crispy fast food fries. I've seen a couple of my YouTube friends buy these, so I wanted to give them a try, and they really do resemble the McDonald's ones. I would definitely be rebuying. And last minute, I remembered I had some of these nacho cheese sauce cups in my pantry, and I thought that would be so delicious, poured over top of the fries, and oh my goodness, I feel like every time that I cook fries now, I'm going to want to add this cheese. It was amazing. Next up, we are going to be doing some grilled steaks. I obviously wasn't thinking too much when I was meal planning because we had a lot of beef this week, but that's okay. I don't rarely ever like crave a steak, but it sounded so good this day, and I was like, that's definitely got to go down. So I'm just sprinkling some of that Mr. Steak Super Blend seasoning generously on both sides. I did let it sit at room temperature for about an hour before I threw them on the grill. I was super proud of my grill marks because I kind of struggle with that sometimes. So the kids don't like steak, so I just did some hot dogs for them. That's what they wanted. And I served these with some steamed broccoli and some mashed potatoes and brown gravy. I love it when we get to sit out on the porch and eat dinner. It just makes my soul so happy. And then lastly, I had some boneless, skinless chicken thighs in my freezer that I had let thaw out. I just wanted to be pretty basic with these, so I just put them on some tin foil on a cookie sheet and drizzled them with some olive oil. And then I seasoned them with some salt, pepper, and then once again that Hidden Valley ranch seasoning, and I just massaged that into both sides and popped that in my oven at 400 degrees for about 25 minutes. To go along with those, I made some fried green tomatoes, so I just sliced those up, seasoned them with salt and pepper. I'm going to be dipping those into an egg wash, just some egg and milk, and then I found this Kentucky Colonel garlic and herb seasoning mix at Walmart. I wasn't sure what I wanted to use it on, and then I figured it would be perfect on these. So I started by dredging them into the flour first, and then I dipped them into the egg wash mixture, making sure to really let that excess drip off. And then I'm just going to coat those really well, making sure everything is completely covered into that flour mixture. And I'm just going to repeat that until all the tomatoes are used up, obviously. And I'm going to drop those into some hot oil in this skillet. I did have to do this into 2 batches, and I fry those for about 2 to 3 minutes on each side. I placed them on a paper towel lined plate to kind of soak up the excess grease, and oh my gosh, these were so good. I only make these about once a year because I try not to deep fry too often, but totally worth it. I dipped those in some ranch, and then that chicken looks bland and boring, but it was so juicy and flavorful. We loved it, and I just served it with some green beans on the side. So that's going to wrap up this video. I hope that you guys felt inspired and found a few things that you'd like to try. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one.